I mean, this is white talking down speak. If you don't commit suicide, if you don't commit suicide, we are going to discredit and humiliate you. Signed the FBI. So my people, yeah, and the government, yeah, and you've seen this. This is Dr. King, by the way, bleeding out outside of room 306. James Earl Ray stalked King and almost got away scot-free. It's one of the, read Hampton Side's Hellhound on his trail. Do not read it alone. Keep the drugs and alcohol away from you, right? Because it's a powerful, powerful story. There's a PBS version called Two Roads to Memphis. James Earl Ray's Road to Memphis, Dr. King's Road to Memphis. It's a powerful thing. So, yes, President Reagan, Dr. King got to speak out. Because, you know, when we say unpopular things, people applaud us, don't they? Except that wouldn't be true. My first job interview, I was almost 24 years old. I'm sitting at a table at a Baptist college in Alabama and being checked out by the white establishment, and it was, you know, Dr. King was a communist, wasn't he? And I said, well, you know, Stanley Levinson, yeah, Bayard Rustin, yeah, but not Dr. King. I don't know how I got the job. Oh, it's one of those things. So one reason the dream is elusive is so much of it flies into the teeth of majority culture in the United States. U.S. exceptionalism, right? The U.S. can have serious problems. That's what happens in Europe, right? But here's something interesting. The beloved community says we all benefit, each individual benefits, when everybody is able to reach their potential. But that is not how we're socialized to believe. I find it ironic, finance majors, you'll get this, that in a society that truly worships capitalism, right? Truly worships capitalism, which is the idea that wealth can be generated, also believes that justice is a zero-sum game. But people are often a maze of contradictions. And so what we do is to justify what I have, is I take Dr. King's words to shut you down. When I use weaponized as a term, I mean taking a phrase or an idea and using it as a cudgel. I went to graduate school, as a club to shut you up. That's what weaponized means. 2014, we were in the midst of the Zimmerman controversy about Trayvon Martin. I don't cry often, but I sat at my computer and I couldn't deal with it. I'm trying to educate myself about something happening, and I'm looking at people posting photoshopped images to make Trayvon Martin look 6'8", because the idea is if a Negro's big, it's okay to shoot him. That's plain wrong and sick. Compared to an average person, I'm pretty big. I don't like this idea that being big means we can shoot you. I work with some pretty fine, outstanding, large men of color, and I don't want them to meet this. But so, Mrs. Palin says, Dr. King, stop playing the race card. Dr. King was all about judging people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin, and would to God that Mr. Zimmerman apply that criteria. He just saw a black boy, and he had to kill him. And that happens way too often. I'll tell you an out-of-state story. This happened, you were there, Coach Harrison? We're going to Utah. I'm riding shotgun. Why? I don't want to get pulled over because somebody sees two Negroes in the front of a van. I figure if they see this, they'll go, man, that's an ugly face, and let us go on, right? But it's like, you know, you account for these things. Black Lives Matters thinks the color of people's skin is more important than content of character. MLK wouldn't be proud. Really, I don't know what MLK would think about Black Lives Matter, but neither do you. He's been dead for 52 years. But this is weaponizing. If you talk about a racial issue or a gender issue or a transgender issue in any way that remotely seems confrontational, you're not being in the spirit of Dr. King. He was all about love. Just one of those things. You see, because I think why we weaponize is we're afraid, we want to protect. And I mean, here's the thing. There's a whole bunch of stuff here, but, you know, King's words happened in a context. If he were alive today, I do not know what his burning issue would be. Maybe climate change. Maybe not. Who knows? I don't know. But we do know when he uttered his words, we were living in the throes of what we call Jim Crow, of race privilege being codified into law as well as custom. This one really bothers me. People would come to me and say, Crowther, you're a monster. You're not treating me as a white person the way Dr. King would treat people. And it's like, yeah, that's probably right. Because I don't think that you're suffering. Not the way in King's time that the people he was concerned about were suffering. This is a term that from Cornel West, Reverend West, also Dr. West. We want King to be safe. He was anything but safe. But today, we want to teach school children at an age-appropriate level these simple lessons about Dr. King. The problem is, as you grow up, those lessons need to be informed with a deeper understanding of what Dr. King said and what he stood for. That would be a really, 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 really helpful thing. And so this is my phrase. We want Dr. King to be a house Negro. We really do. Now you may not know what that term is, but I do. And so the house Negro smiles and pretends, right? And it makes us feel like they, that we oppress, are happy with their lot. And that's just not true, right? And I love this. False equivalencies. Well, you know, the alt-right, they're just people trying to create a world in which they feel safe. And I think, you know, I'm a good student of history. That would be something I would expect from the Schutzstaffel. They want a world in which they feel safe. No Jews, no commies, right? They'll be better off. I don't know that that's really what the beloved community is all about, right? It's one of those things. When you read what Dr. King said, and it's so funny, we were going to run out of time. Yesterday, I'm at the computer, you know, because you always dust these things up, try to learn. And all the signs, Dr. King would have opposed affirmative action. Really? He's asking for a New Deal for black people. Now, for you that didn't do history, the New Deal was Franklin Roosevelt's series of policies and programs to use government power to lift the country out of the Great Depression. And King, living during a time when government power is being used to save Vietnam from Vietnamese, said, why can't you use some of that power to help us? Wow! A Bill of Rights for black folk! Whew! It's one of those things. And so by the time we get to 2020, much of what Dr. King said and did has been repackaged, recommodified. Right? Dr. King was a conservative because he believed in individual rights. Karl Marx believed in individual rights. I don't know where you get this stuff, right? And so we're going to go there quickly. In this room, I was standing about right here going, why won't the technology work? I played the entire Washington Mall address, the I Have a Dream speech, and it takes a long time. It's about 15 minutes long. And people came up to me and they said, I never realized that this was the speech. Oh yeah, Yeah, do people not know this? Oh, people that study this know this, but you don't. Because what did King actually say? First, he says it at something called a March for Jobs and Justice. They're demonstrating in Washington, D.C., on the Mall, a massive effort in community organizing for direct governmental involvement in fixing the problems of racial inequality and economic inequality. That's what they're there for. So everything that happens is in the pursuit of this massive agenda. One line in a very long speech. 4 seconds of 15 minutes. You do the math, Dr. Nearing, I know you can. It's one of those things. I coded the part of the riff, and I think it's a pretty good coding, but remember, it's to pump up a crowd, right? Where the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slaveholders sit together at the table of brotherhood, right? That's one of the, so he says, look, I have a dream in which my, not our, my 4 little children won't be judged. Let me help you, and I'll just go there. At the core of white supremacist thought, all black males are rapists, all black women are whores. That's at the core. And I can footnote that from hell to breakfast. And so this is what he's talking about. When they'll see human beings and not evil little beings. That's what he is saying in 1964, and how that radical confrontational message can be sanitized. Oh, well. It says a lot about people and a lot about United States history. I always close with these kinds of ideas. I certainly have been able to convince editors that I know something about Dr. King. But if you care about Dr. King, read and study what Dr. King said and what Dr. King did. Form your own opinions, and it's ridiculously easy. All this stuff is online. I'll tell you a story. This is the King Institute at Stanford, on the back of campus, in the one building at Stanford that hasn't been remodeled since it was constructed in the 1980s. That is, even the King Institute has been Jim Crowed. And thankfully for the, I read this in the student newspaper at Stanford, they still have one, and the students kind of have a problem with this. I think that problem will end at the point when they get their degrees and they're asked by the president at Stanford to write a check. I mean, it's easy to have cheap grades, but it is funny that a tiny little building in Stanford. Scholars have written volumes about King and race. This is one of my favorite horrible books. I mean, it's painful. Ibram Kendi has done well. Moved from Florida. I think he's at Georgetown now after a stint at Harvard, but staying from the beginning. And the idea is even black people are acculturated into a structure of white supremacy that makes you form, that's what prejudice is all about. You form judgments about people based on superficialities. The best single volume for like your first time reading about King, Harvard Sitcuff's King, Been to the Mountaintop. The most moving book, Vincent Harding, Martin Luther King, Inconvenient Hero. Think about that word, inconvenient. For all of us, King is a challenge for all of us. So, read for yourself. But we do want to celebrate the possibility of the beloved community. And I learned to do this after working with the Black Student Union when they said, Dr. Crowther, we do appreciate you, but we are so tired of you telling us how bad white people are. We already know. Okay. So, this is the idea, right? Be best. I did that deliberately. You know what I mean, right? You know exactly where I'm going. Be the best member of the beloved community that you can be. Bob Moses has been here, thanks to Dr. Nearing, right? What does that mean? Find something and work on it, right? I just love this one, right? The idea of ripples of hope. Every time you do something good, like a butterfly's wings over Tokyo Bay, you create the possibility of a great tsunami of justice. Gandhi, who knew something about struggle. Be the change you want to be in the world. And we'll give Dr. King the last word. You have to have a sense that the moral arc of the universe does indeed bend toward justice. You can't see it, and that's what he meant. Faith is taking the first step, even when you can't see the whole staircase. Thank you for letting me share with you. It's an honor to be here today. I'm happy to take a question or comment because you get to do this too. I got to do mine. Any questions, any comments? People are going, no, we're done with you. Okay.
Hey, Doctor, I have a comment.
Yes.
The beloved community, I'm ex-military, so I identify with that.
Yeah.
To where people give up a certain amount of privilege to participate in those activities. Whether, you could be somebody from you'd be privately educated in the, Beverly Hills, and you could be some poor, minority from Los Angeles or the South, anywhere. And if you're smart enough and you're, bright enough, it doesn't really matter what color you are in the military.
That's right.
And the backbone of the military is actually a lot of black folks in the enlisted corps. So meeting people like that, I identify with that, being ex-military.
Yeah, and so the obvious thing is, nonviolence versus the military, and I think what happens
in the military, and I'll say this: the soldier wants peace more than most.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I think what happens is often it's soldiers in danger who do something humane because it's the right thing to do in accordance to your duty. So thank you for your service. And thank you all for being here, and let's have a great rest of the week, okay?
I'm sorry that the pizza came late, but it's on the back tables there. I don't know how much is left, but you get some on your way out. Hey, sorry.